The body floats face down in the Nile Delta, silver ring catching morning light. A fisherman spots it wedged between reeds, passport sealed in plastic nearby. He doesn't scream. Men who work these waters have seen worse. But when he pulls the American ID from the bag and sees her face, middle-aged woman, Chicago address, smile that belonged to someone's mother, his hands start shaking. 16 hours earlier, that same woman had been alive. 16 hours earlier, she'd stepped off a plane believing love was waiting. 16 hours earlier, she'd trusted a man who didn't exist. This is how Nora Bellamont's fairy tale ended. But to understand how a medical billing clerk from Chicago's South Side ended up dead in Egyptian waters, you need to go back further. Not to the flight. Not even to the proposal. You need to go back to a comment section under a travel video about Cairo street markets. One sentence, 23 characters including spaces. Someday I'll visit Cairo. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. That comment should have disappeared into the algorithm like a million others. Instead, someone replied. A man who called himself Karim El Haddad. Tour guide, 38 years old, Giza resident, or so his profile claimed. If you ever come, I'll show you the parts tourists never see. Nora stared at those words for 3 full minutes before responding. She wasn't impulsive, wasn't the type to chat with strangers online. But something about the offer felt warm, genuine, like someone had finally noticed her standing in a crowd. She typed back, "That's kind of you." 2 hours later, he sent a direct message. By midnight, they'd exchanged 43 messages. By week's end, she knew his mother had died of cancer, that he had no siblings, that his tour business collapsed during the pandemic, and he'd been rebuilding alone ever since. He asked about her divorce, her son who moved to Seattle, her cat that barely acknowledged her existence. He called her beautiful in a way that didn't feel predatory. He said her age made her more interesting, not less. He used words like Habibti, my love, and sent voice notes that sounded like poetry wrapped in gravel. 3 months in, Nora started dressing up for their video calls. She'd angle her phone to hide the water stain on her ceiling. She'd wait for his face to pixelate into view through whatever dim-lit room he called from. And for 1 hour each night, Chicago disappeared. Her co-worker Brenda didn't buy it. Girl, you don't even know if that's his real face. Could be some kid in a basement using someone else's photos. But Karim video called. He showed her street signs, market vendors, even his supposed neighborhood, though the camera always moved too fast to catch details. What if he's married? Brenda pressed. What if this is just how he spends his evenings, talking to lonely American women? Nora had considered that. Of course she had. But then Karim sent a package. Small box, international postage, her name handwritten on the label. Inside, a silver ring, cheap metal, probably worth $15. But he'd included a note. For the woman who reminded me what hope feels like. That night, Nora cried into her cat's fur for 20 minutes. The cat, as usual, did not care. 8 months after that first comment, Karim proposed during a video call. The connection was terrible. His face kept freezing mid-sentence, but the question came through clear. Marry me, Nora. Come to Egypt. Let me show you what love looks like when it's not rushed, when it's built right. She said yes before her brain could interfere. Her son Calvin found out 3 days before the flight. She'd called him trying to sound casual, like she was mentioning a work trip instead of a marriage to a man she'd never touched. Mum, stop. You're flying to Egypt to marry someone you met online. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like every news story that ends with someone's mother going missing. He's not like that. How do you know? She couldn't answer that, not in a way that would satisfy him. So she just said, I'm 51 years old, Calvin. How much longer am I supposed to wait for safe? He went quiet. Then, at least tell someone where you're staying. Send me his address. Something. She promised she would. She didn't. Because part of her knew if she gave Calvin the details, he'd find a reason to stop her. And she couldn't afford to be stopped. Not when this felt like her last chance at being wanted. The flight left O'Hare at 7:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. She wore the silver ring, carried one suitcase, brought $12,000 withdrawn from her retirement fund, because Karim said Egyptian banks were complicated and cash made everything easier. She texted him from her seat as the plane pushed back from the gate. Next time I see you, it'll be face to face. His reply came instantly. You'll never regret this, my love. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Nora fell asleep with her phone pressed to her chest. She dreamed of the Nile, of sunsets that looked like they were painted just for her, of a man who spoke her name like it meant something. She didn't dream about the fisherman who'd find her body 16 hours after landing. Would you trust someone you'd only met through a screen if they promised you everything you'd been missing? Karim's messages arrived like clockwork. 6:00 a.m. Chicago time, every single morning. Nora would wake to her phone glowing on the nightstand, his name lighting up the dark. Good morning, Habibti. I dreamed of you again. At first, she thought it was romantic. Then she realized he was texting her at 2:00 p.m., his time, right when she'd be waking up, vulnerable, still half asleep and emotionally unguarded. He knew exactly when to reach her. The messages weren't long, never demanding, just enough to make her feel seen before her day began, before her alarm screamed, before she had to face another shift at the medical billing office where her supervisor pronounced her name wrong despite 10 years of corrections. Karim never mispronounced anything. He'd send voice notes, his accent thick and warm, stumbling over English in ways that made him sound earnest instead of polished. He'd tell her about his day, the tourists who tipped poorly, the sunset over the pyramids, how he wished she was there to see it. You would love it here, Nora, not the tourist version, the real Cairo, where my people live, where love is still, how do you say, sacred. She'd play those voice notes on her commute, on her lunch breaks, sometimes twice in a row, just to hear him say her name. Brenda noticed. You're glowing. Either you met someone, or you joined a cult. Nora laughed it off, but Brenda wasn't wrong. She had joined something, a world that existed only in her phone, a romance that required no makeup, no awkward first dates, no risk of being rejected in person. Karim asked questions no one else bothered with. What did she eat for dinner? What made her laugh as a kid? What did she want to do before she got too old to do it? That last question hit different. I don't know, she typed back. I guess I stopped thinking I had time for a bucket list. His response came fast. You have time. You have me. And I will make sure you see everything you've been too afraid to chase. 3 months in, the video calls started. Karim always called from dim rooms. Bad lighting, he'd say. Old building, unreliable electricity. But she could see enough. Dark eyes, strong jawline. Smile that crinkled the edges of his face in ways that felt genuine. He'd show her his neighborhood sometimes. Phone camera sweeping past street vendors, children kicking a soccer ball, graffiti in Arabic she couldn't read. It felt real, chaotic, alive. "You see," he'd say, "this is my life. Nothing fancy, but it's honest." Her friends weren't convinced. Brenda brought printouts to lunch one day, articles about romance scams, warnings about men who targeted older women online, photos of fake profiles. "I'm not saying he's definitely a scam," Brenda said, sliding the papers across the table. "I'm saying you need to be smart." Nora glanced at the articles, but didn't read them. "He video calls me, Brenda. I've seen his face. People fake video calls now. They use pre-recorded footage, edit it in real time. That's paranoid. That's careful." But Nora didn't want to be careful. Careful had kept her alone for 10 years. Careful had turned her life into a routine so predictable she could map it on a calendar. Wake, work, home, sleep, repeat. Karim made her feel reckless, and reckless felt like being 25 again. He told her his mother had died 2 years earlier. Cancer. He'd been her only caregiver. Spent his savings on treatments that didn't work. Now he was alone in a city that felt too big and too expensive and too full of people who didn't care. "I don't want to be alone anymore," he said during one late-night call. His voice cracked, actual tears in his eyes. "I thought maybe, if I met someone who understood loneliness, we could fix it together." Nora cried, too. Right there on camera. No shame. No filter. "I understand," she whispered. "I understand exactly what you mean." That's when he sent the ring. It arrived in a small padded envelope, postage stamps layered like scales. She opened it at her kitchen table, hands trembling. The ring itself was nothing special. Silver-plated, maybe. Thin band. No stone. But tucked inside was a hand-written note on lined paper. "For the woman who reminded me what hope feels like. Wear this and know someone across the world is thinking of you every second." She slipped it on her right hand. It fit perfectly. Brenda saw it the next day. "Please tell me that's not from Egypt." Nora didn't answer. "Nora, come on. You know what this is, right? He's locking you in. Making it feel real so I'll what? Be happy? Feel wanted? God forbid, right?" Brenda went quiet, then softer. "I just don't want you to get hurt. I'm 51 years old. If I can't trust my own judgment by now, then what's the point?" But late at night, when Karim didn't call on time, doubt crept in. She'd stare at the ring, spin it around her finger. Wonder if Brenda was right. If this was all just an elaborate setup. If Karim was someone else entirely. Someone sitting in a cafe, juggling 5 conversations with 5 desperate women, saying the same scripted lines to all of them. Then her phone would buzz. "Sorry, Habibti. Power went out. I was thinking of you the whole time." And just like that, the doubt dissolved. By month 6, they talked about the future like it was guaranteed. He'd mention wedding plans, small ceremony by the Nile. Just them and an imam. Nothing fancy. Nothing that required her to invite people who'd judge. "Your son can come," Karim offered. "I would love to meet him." But Nora knew Calvin wouldn't come, wouldn't approve, wouldn't understand why she needed this, so she decided she'd go alone. Month 7, Karim started mentioning money. Not asking, just mentioning. His tour business needed a new van. Medical bills from his mother's illness still lingered. The landlord raised his rent. "I'm not telling you this to ask for help," he'd say quickly. I want to be honest. I want you to know my life isn't perfect." Nora appreciated that. Honesty felt rare. She started sending money. Small amounts at first. $50 here, $100 there. Never enough to hurt her budget, just enough to feel helpful. Karim always protested. No, Habibti. I can't take your money. You work too hard." But she insisted. And eventually, he'd accept. Grateful, humble, promising to pay her back once his business recovered. By month 8, she'd sent nearly $4,000. By month 8, he proposed. The video call froze halfway through his question, his face pixelated into blocks of color. But she heard him, heard every word. "Marry me, Nora. Come to Egypt. Let me love you the way you deserve." She didn't hesitate. "Yes." What would you have said if someone promised to love you after a lifetime of being overlooked? The proposal should have felt like a beginning. Instead, it felt like falling. Nora sat on her couch for 20 minutes after the call ended, staring at the ring on her finger. The cheap silver band Karim had sent months ago. She twisted it slowly, watching it catch the glow from her TV. Her cat jumped onto her lap. She barely noticed. Her phone buzzed. Karim again. "I know this is fast, but I've waited my whole life to feel this way. Haven't you?" She typed back. "Yes." But her thumb hovered over the send button for 10 seconds before pressing it, because the truth was more complicated. She had waited. She had felt invisible for years. But saying yes to a marriage proposal from a man she'd never touched, never smelled, never stood next to, in an elevator, that wasn't waiting. That was gambling. And Nora had never been a gambler. Her phone buzzed again. "I'll arrange everything. You just need to come. Bring your heart and your trust. I'll handle the rest." That phrase stuck with her. Bring your trust, like trust was luggage, something you could pack and carry and hand over at customs. She called Calvin the next morning, tried to sound casual, tried to make it seem like a vacation instead of a life decision. "Hey, sweetie, I'm thinking about taking a trip." "Cool. Where?" She paused. "Egypt." Silence on the other end. Then, "Egypt, like pyramids, Egypt?" "Yeah." "Mom, you hate flying. You didn't even come visit me in Seattle because you said planes make you nauseous." "I know, but I've been talking to someone who lives there, and he invited me." More silence. Longer this time. "Someone you met online." "Yes." "Mom, don't say it like that." "Like what? Like I'm worried?" "Because I am worried. You're talking about flying across the planet to meet some random guy. He's not random. We've been talking for 8 months. 8 months of texts doesn't mean you know someone." "Calvin, I'm 51. How much longer am I supposed to wait for safe? You said that already. And it's not about being safe or careful or whatever. It's about being smart. You don't even know his real name." "Yes, I do. Karim El-Haddad. You know what he told you his name is. You've never seen his ID, never met his friends, never talked to anyone who can confirm he's who he says he is." Nora felt her throat tighten. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." But she couldn't. Not in a way that wouldn't sound desperate. Not in a way that wouldn't confirm every fear Calvin already had. So she just said, "I'm going. I wanted you to know." Calvin exhaled hard. "Fine. At least send me his address, his phone number, something." "I will." She hung up before he could argue further, but she never sent the address. Because part of her knew, if Calvin had the details, he'd dig. He'd find something wrong, some inconsistency, some proof that Karim wasn't real, and Nora couldn't risk that. Not now. Not when she'd already decided. The weeks leading up to the flight blurred together. Nora withdrew $12,000 from her retirement account. The bank teller asked if everything was okay. She lied and said she was remodeling her kitchen. Karim had explained it carefully. Egyptian banks were complicated for foreigners. Cash made everything easier. Wedding expenses, housing deposits, visa fees. "I hate asking you to bring money," he'd said during a call, "but it's temporary. Once we're married, we'll have a joint account. Everything will be ours. Ours." That word made it feel real. She packed light. One suitcase, summer clothes, the ring. A printout of their message history, in case customs asked questions. Brenda cornered her in the break room 2 days before the flight. "You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Nora, please just wait a few more months. Visit him first. Don't marry him right away." He already arranged the ceremony. Then unarrange it. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm afraid if I wait, I'll lose the courage. Because I'm afraid he'll find someone else. Because I'm 51 and I don't have time to be cautious anymore." But she didn't say any of that. She just said, "Because I love him." Brenda looked at her like she was watching someone step off a cliff. The night before the flight, Nora couldn't sleep. She kept checking her phone, kept rereading Karim's messages, kept spinning the ring on her finger. At 2:00 a.m., she got up and walked to her bathroom mirror, stared at herself. Grey roots showing through her dyed job, lines around her mouth, eyes that looked tired even when she wasn't. She tried to see what Karim saw, tried to believe she was worth flying across the world for. Her phone buzzed. "Karim. Tomorrow, Habibti. Tomorrow everything changes." She typed back, "I'm scared." His response came fast. "Fear is just love that hasn't happened yet. Trust me." She wanted to. God, she wanted to. At 7:15 p.m. the next evening, Nora boarded a plane at O'Hare. She wore the silver ring, carried $12,000 in cash wrapped in a scarf at the bottom of her suitcase. Her passport photo showed a younger version of herself, happier, less desperate. She texted Karim from her seat. "Next time I see you, it'll be face to face." His reply came instantly. "You'll never regret this, my love." The plane lifted off. Chicago disappeared below her. She pressed her forehead to the window and watched the city lights fade into darkness. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Nora fell asleep. She dreamed of a man who spoke her name like it was sacred, who promised her a life that felt too good to be real. She didn't dream about the fisherman who'd find her body floating in the Nile Delta. She didn't dream about the autopsy report that would list sleeping pills as cause of death. She didn't dream about the passport they'd find sealed in plastic next to her corpse. If your last chance at love required a leap of faith, would you jump? 13 hours in the air feels like drowning slowly. Nora couldn't sleep past the first 3 hours, kept checking her phone even though it had no signal. Kept spinning the ring on her finger until her skin turned red underneath. The woman next to her, mid-30s, business suit, noise-cancelling headphones, didn't make eye contact once. Nora wanted to talk, wanted to say, "I'm getting married," wanted someone to tell her this wasn't insane. But the woman stayed buried in her laptop, and Nora stayed buried in her thoughts. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through old messages, reread Karim's words like they were scripture. "Let me love you the way you deserve. You are more beautiful than you know. I will make you feel alive again." Every sentence felt like a promise. The plane hit turbulence somewhere over the Atlantic. Nora gripped the armrests, knuckles white. The cabin lights flickered. A baby started crying 3 rows back. She thought about Calvin, about how he'd begged her to wait, about how his voice had cracked when he said, "Mom, please, just think about this." But thinking was the problem. Thinking led to doubt. Doubt led to staying home. Staying home led to dying alone in a Chicago apartment with a Katamarantot that didn't care. She texted Karim, even though the message wouldn't send until she landed. "I'm halfway there. Are you excited?" She stared at the unsent message for 5 minutes before locking her phone. The flight attendant came by with a cart. Nora ordered a ginger ale she didn't drink. The woman next to her ordered whiskey and downed it in 2 swallows. Nora wondered if she should have done the same. Somewhere over Europe she fell asleep again. This time she dreamed of her ex-husband, Marcus, the man who'd left her for a dental hygienist half her age. In the dream, he was laughing. Not cruelly, just laughing. Like he knew something she didn't. She woke up sweating. The cabin was dark, most passengers asleep or pretending to be. Nora pulled out the printout of her message history with Karim. 300 pages. 8 months of conversations reduced to ink and paper. She flipped through it slowly. Studied his words, his punctuation, the way he always ended messages with Habibti, or my love, or my heart. Did scammers do that? Did con men take the time to write 300 pages of affection? Her phone buzzed. Signal returning. They were descending. A flood of notifications. Texts from Calvin. Voicemails. Emails. She didn't open them. Instead, she opened her chat with Karim. The message she'd typed earlier had finally sent. His reply was already waiting. "I'm more than excited, Habibti. I'm reborn. Land safely. I'll be waiting at the gate with flowers." Flowers. He'd remembered she liked sunflowers. The plane touched down hard. Passengers clapped. Nora didn't. She just stared out the window at Cairo International Airport, at the heat shimmering off the tarmac, at the foreign land she'd gambled everything on. Customs took 40 minutes. The officer looked at her passport, then at her face, then back at the passport. He asked why she was visiting. "Tourism," she said. He stamped it without comment. Baggage claim took another 20 minutes. Nora watched suitcases circle the carousel like a lazy river. Hers came last. Of course it did. She walked through the arrivals gate, pulling her suitcase behind her, scanning the crowd for Karim's face, for the man she'd spent 8 months dreaming about. And then she saw him. Dark hair. Sunglasses even though they were indoors. White shirt, jeans, holding a bouquet of sunflowers that looked wilted from the heat. He smiled when he saw her. But it wasn't the smile from the video calls. It was smaller, tighter, like he was performing instead of feeling. Nora's stomach twisted. He walked toward her quickly. Too quickly. Kissed her cheek before she could process it. His lips were cold, despite the heat. Nora, Habibti, you're here. You're really here. His voice was the same. That helped. She focused on his voice. I'm here, she said. Her own voice sounded strange, small. He grabbed her suitcase. We go now. Traffic is bad. Very bad. Where are we going? To my home, where we will marry, where we will be happy. He started walking. Fast. Nora hurried to keep up. I thought we'd stay at a hotel first. Just to... No hotel. My family home is ready. Everything is ready. They reached the parking lot. The heat hit her like a wall. Nora had never felt air this thick, this heavy. Karim opened the door to an old sedan. Tan paint, cracked dashboard. He threw her suitcase in the trunk and gestured for her to get in. She did. He climbed into the driver's seat and locked the doors. The click echoed. Nora reached for her phone. No signal. We drive 2 hours, Karim said, starting the engine. Maybe more. Depends on traffic. 2 hours? I thought you lived in Giza. Family home is outside city. Quieter. Better for ceremony. He pulled out of the parking lot. Cairo swallowed them whole. Nora watched the city blur past her window. Buildings stacked on top of each other. Laundry hanging from balconies. Streets choked with cars and motorbikes, and donkeys pulling carts. It didn't look like the Cairo from Karim's video calls. It looked poorer, louder, more desperate. She tried her phone again. Still no signal. Karim, my phone isn't working. Yes, network is bad outside airport. Will work later. I need to call my son. Let him know I landed. Later. First we go home. Then you call. His tone left no room for argument. Nora put her phone away. Tried to steady her breathing. Tried to remember why she'd come. Love. Partnership. A chance to feel wanted. But the car doors were locked. The city was disappearing behind them. And Karim's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. She looked at the ring on her finger, the cheap silver band that had felt like a promise. Now it felt like evidence. When did you realize the person sitting next to you wasn't who you thought they were? The desert doesn't creep up on you. It swallows. One moment, Nora was watching Cairo's outskirts blur past. Crumbling apartment blocks, roadside fruit stands, children kicking dust clouds into the air. The next moment, there was nothing. Just sand and heat and a road that stretched toward an empty horizon. Karim hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. Nora tried again. How much longer? Soon. That's what you said an hour ago. He didn't answer, just turned up the radio. Arabic music filled the car. A woman's voice wailing over strings and drums. It sounded like mourning. Nora checked her phone for the 15th time. Still no signal. She watched the bars at the top of the screen like they were a countdown timer. 5 bars at the airport, 3 bars leaving the city, 1 bar on the highway. Now nothing. Just an empty rectangle where her connection to the world used to be. Karim, I really need to call my son. I told you. Later. I promised him I'd... Later. His voice had an edge now. Sharp. Not the warm gravel from the video calls. This was different. This was a man who didn't want to be questioned. Nora swallowed hard, looked out the window. The landscape had flattened into something alien. No trees, no buildings, just sand rippling like water under the heat. She tried the door handle, locked. Why are the doors locked? Automatic. All cars here do that. Can you unlock mine? Why? Because I want to know I can open it. He glanced at her. Sunglasses still on, even though the sun was behind them now. She couldn't see his eyes, couldn't read his face. You don't trust me. I just want the door unlocked. He reached over and pressed a button. Her door clicked, unlocked. Happy? She wasn't, but she nodded. 10 minutes later, he pulled off the main road onto a dirt path. The car bounced over rocks and ruts. Nora grabbed the handle above her door to steady herself. Where are we going? I told you, family home. This doesn't look like a neighborhood. Because it's private. My family owns land here. Very private, very safe. Nothing about this felt safe. The dirt path narrowed. The car kicked up dust that coated the windows. Nora could barely see outside anymore. Just the vague shapes of dunes and scattered rocks. Her heart was pounding now, not the excited flutter from the plane. This was different. This was her body, screaming at her to pay attention. Karim, I don't feel good about this. You worry too much. I think we should go back. Maybe stay at a hotel tonight. Start fresh tomorrow. No hotel. I'll pay for it. I have cash. He went quiet. Then slowly. How much cash? The question hung in the air like smoke. Nora's throat went dry. Enough. How much? I don't think that's... How much, Nora? His voice had changed completely. No warmth, no affection, just calculation. She didn't answer. Karim pulled the car to a stop. Middle of nowhere, no buildings, no people, just sand and silence. He turned off the engine. Nora's pulse hammered in her ears. Get out, he said. What? Get out. I show you something. I don't want to get out. He smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was a baring of teeth. Nora, Habibti, you flew all this way to see me. Now I want to show you something. Get out! She looked at her phone. No signal. Looked at the road behind them. Empty. Looked at Karim. His hand was on the door handle. Every instinct she had screamed at her not to move. But she'd flown across an ocean to be here. She'd given up her savings. She'd ignored every warning. She'd bet everything on this man being who he said he was. And now she was alone in the desert with him. She reached for the door handle. Her hand was shaking. That's good, Karim said softly. Very good. He got out first, walked around to her side, opened her door from the outside. The heat hit her like a fist. Dry, choking. She stepped out onto the sand, and her shoes sank slightly. Karim was standing too close. She could smell him now. Cigarettes and sweat and something else. Something sour. You have $12,000 in your suitcase, he said. Not a question. Nora's blood turned to ice. How do you... You told me. Remember? On the phone. You said you brought cash for the wedding. For our future. She had said that. But the way he repeated it now didn't sound like gratitude. It sounded like inventory. Karim, what's going on? Nothing. I just want to make sure we understand each other. Understand what? He stepped closer. She stepped back. Her heel caught on a rock and she stumbled. He grabbed her arm. Too tight. You came here because you were lonely. Because no one wanted you. Because you thought I would save you. Let go of me. But I'm not here to save you, Nora. He smiled. And in that smile, she saw the truth. This was never a love story. This was always a trap. How far would you run if you realized there was nowhere to go? Calvin stares at his mother's last email for the 4th time in 6 hours. I'm fine. Don't worry if you can't reach me for a few days. Love you. No emojis, no double periods, no exclamation marks after love you like she always used. His mother had texted him the same message 3 times a day for 10 years. Every single time, love you, with 2 exclamation marks, not 1, not 0, 2. This message has none. He calls her phone, goes straight to voicemail, has been going straight to voicemail for 36 hours now. He calls again. Same result. His girlfriend, Shauna, walks into the living room carrying coffee. Still nothing? She's not answering. Maybe her phone died. Maybe the hotel has bad service. She would have found a way to charge it by now. She would have emailed from the hotel lobby. Something. Shauna sits next to him. You think something happened? It's not a question. Calvin pulls up his banking app. His mother had added him as a secondary user years ago when she thought she might forget to pay bills. He'd never actually checked her account. It felt like invading her privacy. Now he doesn't care about privacy. He logs in, checks her transaction history. His stomach drops. Holy Shauna, look at this! The screen shows a series of charges, all from Egypt, all in the last 48 hours. Electronics store in Cairo, $4,000. Jewelry shop in Alexandria, $6,000. ATM withdrawal, location unknown, $8,000. Cash advance on her credit card, $5,000. That's over $20,000, Shauna whispers. She doesn't have $20,000. She maxed out her retirement fund just to make the trip. Calvin's hands are shaking now. He scrolls further, sees more charges, smaller ones, food, gas, phone cards. Someone's using her cards. Maybe she's... My mother doesn't spend $4,000 at an electronics store. She still uses a flip phone because she says smartphones are too complicated. Shauna goes quiet. Calvin opens his email, reads his mother's message again, studies every word. I'm fine. Don't worry if you can't reach me for a few days. Love you. He reads it out loud, listens to how it sounds. This isn't her, he says. Someone else wrote this. How can you tell? Because my mother ends every message the same way. She's done it since I was in college. Love you, sweetie, with 2 exclamation marks and the word sweetie. Every single time. He shows Shauna his phone, scrolls through a year's worth of text messages. Every one ends the same way. Love you, sweetie. Love you, sweetie. Love you, sweetie. This email just says, love you. No sweetie. No exclamation marks. Someone has her phone, Calvin says. Someone has her email. Someone has her credit cards. We need to call the police. He's already dialing. The Chicago Police Department transfers him 3 times before he gets someone who understands what he's saying. A detective named Harris. Woman. Sounds tired. Your mother is an adult who traveled voluntarily to Egypt. Unless we have evidence of foul play, she's not answering her phone. Her credit cards are being drained. Someone else is writing emails from her account. Has anyone demanded ransom? No. Has she been reported missing in Egypt? I don't know. How would I know that? You'd need to contact the US Embassy in Cairo. They handle American citizens abroad. Harris gives him a number. Calvin writes it down, even though his hand is shaking too hard to read his own writing. He hangs up, calls the embassy, gets a recording. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Cairo time. It's 11 p.m. there now. He'll have to wait 8 hours. Shauna puts her hand on his shoulder. She's going to be okay. But her voice cracks when she says it. Calvin pulls up his mother's Facebook. She hasn't posted anything, hasn't liked anything, hasn't commented on anything since boarding the plane. He searches for Karim El-Haddad. Finds the profile his mother had shown him months ago. Tour guide, Giza, 38 years old. He clicks on it. The profile is gone, not deactivated, not private. Gone, like it never existed. Calvin's chest tightens. He searches again. Different spelling, different variations, nothing. He opens his mother's laptop. She'd left it at his apartment for safekeeping before the flight. Said she didn't want to carry it through customs. He guesses her password on the second try. Her birthday, plus his name. Opens her email. Finds the message thread with Karim. 8 months of conversations. Thousands of messages. He reads them slowly. Watches his mother fall in love with words on a screen. Karim's messages are perfect. Too perfect. Like they were written by someone who studied what lonely women wanted to hear. Calvin's throat burns. He keeps reading. Finds the messages about money. His mother sending cash through wire transfer. 500 here, 1,000 there. Small amounts that added up to thousands. He was bleeding her dry, Calvin says. Shauna reads over his shoulder. Did she tell you any of this? No, she didn't tell me anything. He finds a folder labeled Egypt trip. Opens it. Sees scanned copies of her passport, flight confirmations, hotel reservations that were never used, and a document titled Emergency Contacts. He opens it. There's only one name listed. Karim El-Haddad. Phone number with an Egyptian country code. Address in Giza. Calvin copies the information. Opens Google Maps. Searches the address. It's an abandoned building. Street view shows boarded windows and graffiti-covered walls. He tries the phone number. Disconnected. His mother had flown across the world to marry a ghost. Calvin closes the laptop. Sits in silence. Shauna doesn't say anything. There's nothing to say. His phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number. Egyptian country code. He opens it. Your mother should have stayed home. When did you last check if the people you love are really safe? The fisherman's name is Rashid, and he's been working the Nile Delta for 43 years. He's seen bodies before, drowning victims mostly, sometimes suicides, once a man who'd been shot and dumped near the reeds. But this one is different. This one is wearing jewelry. Rashid spots her floating face down near the eastern bank, lodged between reeds where the current slows. Early morning, sun barely up. Water still cool. He poles his boat closer, reaches out with his net. Hooks her clothing and pulls her to the surface. American woman, middle-aged, bloated from the water but not badly decomposed, means she hasn't been here long. He checks for a pulse even though he knows there won't be one. Her skin is cold, lips blue, eyes half open and clouded. But what catches his attention is the ring. Silver band on her right hand, cheap metal but still there, Most bodies he finds have been stripped of anything valuable. Wallets gone, phones gone, jewelry taken. This woman still has her ring. That means whoever put her here wasn't interested in robbery. Rashid looks around. The delta is empty this time of morning. Just him and the birds, and the dead woman in his net. He reaches into the water, feels around her body, finds something plastic sealed tight near her waist. A bag, waterproof. He pulls it out. Inside, an American passport. He opens it, sees her face, younger in the photo, smiling. Name listed as Nora Bellamont, Chicago, Illinois. Rashid has a daughter in Chicago, works as a nurse, sends money home every month. He stares at the passport for a long time. Then he pulls his boat to shore and calls the police. 2 officers arrive an hour later. Young men, bored expressions. They look at the body like it's paperwork instead of a person. American? Yes. Passport was with her. One officer photographs the scene. The other searches the body. Finds nothing else. No phone. No money. No identification beyond the passport. Robbery? I don't think so, Rashid says. She still has her ring. The officer examines it. Cheap silver. Not worth stealing. Maybe they missed it. But Rashid knows better. You don't miss a ring when you're stripping a body. You take everything or you take nothing. This was something else. They load her into a van, drive her to the city morgue. Rashid goes back to fishing, but his hands shake for the rest of the day. The autopsy takes 3 days. The medical examiner is a woman named Dr. Salma Osman. She's done this job for 12 years, seen every type of death the Nile can offer. But this case bothers her. The woman, Nora Bellamont, according to her passport, didn't drown. Her lungs are clear. No water, no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds on her hands. Dr. Osman runs a toxicology screen. The results come back positive for zolpidem. Sleeping pills, massive dose, enough to stop her heart within an hour. Someone drugged her, then dumped her in the water to make it look like drowning. Dr. Osman writes up her report, sends it to the police department, flags it as homicide. The case gets assigned to Detective Amara Youssef, 34 years old, 8 years on the force, specializes in crimes against foreign nationals. She reads the autopsy report, reads the fisherman's statement, reads the passport information. Then she makes a call to the U.S. Embassy. We have an American citizen, deceased, possible homicide. I need you to contact her next of kin. The embassy takes Nora's information, runs it through their system, finds Calvin's emergency contact number. They call him at 3 a.m. Seattle time. Calvin is still awake, hasn't slept since receiving the threatening text message. Is this Calvin Bellamont? Yes. This is the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. I'm calling about your mother, Nora Bellamont. Calvin's heart stops. We regret to inform you that your mother's body was found in the Nile Delta 2 days ago. Egyptian authorities have ruled her death a homicide. The words don't land right. They bounce off his brain like stones off water. What? Your mother was found deceased. We're working with local police to investigate. I'm very sorry for your loss. No, that's not. She just got there. She was getting married. She sent me an email. When did you last speak to her directly? I don't know. Before she left. Maybe 4 days ago. The email you received may not have been from her. Egyptian authorities believe someone else had access to her phone and accounts. Calvin can't breathe. The room is tilting. Who did this? We don't know yet, but we're looking for a man who went by the name Karim El-Haddad. That name appears to be an alias. What's his real name? Ahmed Darwish, 29 years old. Wanted in connection with multiple romance scams targeting foreign women. Your mother isn't his first victim, but she's the first one who died. Calvin makes a sound that isn't quite words. The embassy official keeps talking, explaining procedures, explaining how they'll transport his mother's body back to the United States, explaining what happens next. Calvin doesn't hear any of it. All he hears is the voice in his head that had begged his mother not to go, that had warned her this was a trap, that had tried to save her. And she didn't listen. Because she was lonely, because she wanted to be loved, because she thought this time would be different. Shauna is crying next to him. Calvin isn't. He's too empty to cry. We're doing everything we can to locate Ahmed Darwish, the official says. But I need you to understand. Egypt is a large country. If he's gone to ground, it may take time. Do you think you'll find him? Long pause. I don't know. Calvin hangs up. He sits on his couch in the dark. Shauna holds him, but he doesn't feel it. His phone buzzes. Another message from the Egyptian number. She trusted me. That was her first mistake. What would you do if the person who killed your mother sent you a text message? The story breaks on a Tuesday. CNN runs it first. American woman killed in Egyptian romance scam. The photo they use shows Nora's passport picture, smiling, hopeful, alive. By Wednesday, every major network has picked it up. Fox News frames it as a cautionary tale about online dating. MSNBC focuses on international crime. BBC interviews a criminologist who specializes in romance fraud. By Thursday, Nora's face is everywhere. Her co-worker Brenda does an interview with a local Chicago station. She cries on camera. Says she'd tried to warn Nora. Says she saw this coming. The comments section fills up fast. Why would she fly to meet a stranger? This is what happens when desperate people make stupid choices. Darwin Award winner right here. Calvin reads every comment, every single one. Lets the cruelty wash over him like acid. His mother isn't a cautionary tale. She isn't a statistic. She isn't a punchline. She's dead because she wanted someone to love her. Shauna tries to take his phone away. Stop reading that garbage. But he can't stop. He needs to see what people are saying, needs to understand how his mother's death became entertainment ore. The Egyptian police hold a press conference. Detective Amara Youssef stands at a podium and explains what they know. Ahmed Darwish, 29. No fixed address. History of targeting older foreign women through social media. Creates fake profiles. Builds trust over months. Convinces them to visit Egypt. Drains their bank accounts. Disappears. But this is the first time someone died, a reporter asks. Yes. Previous victims lost money but survived. This case is different. Why? Detective Youssef hesitates. We believe Ms. Bellamont may have resisted, may have threatened to report him. We think he panicked. The room erupts with questions. Calvin watches the press conference from his laptop, watches strangers dissect his mother's final moments. His phone rings. Reporter from the Chicago Tribune wants an interview. He hangs up. It rings again. Different number. Same request. He turns it off. But the story doesn't stop. It spreads like fur through dried grass. Think pieces appear in The Atlantic and The New York Times. The loneliness epidemic and the predators who exploit it. Why romance scams are the fastest growing crime. A true crime podcast devotes an entire episode to Nora's case. The host has a smooth voice and dramatic pauses, makes his mother's death sound like a bedtime story. Calvin listens to the whole thing, hates every second. 3 weeks after his mother's body is found, the U.S. Embassy calls again. We've traced Ahmed Darwish to the Libyan border. Egyptian authorities believe he crossed into Libya using a fake passport. So you lost him. Libya is experiencing significant political instability. Pursuing him there would be impossible, complicated. Calvin closes his eyes. He's going to get away with this. We're still investigating. We're working with Interpol. We're monitoring his digital footprint. But I can't promise you an arrest. My mother deserved better than this. I know. No, you don't. He hangs up. That night, Calvin sits at his kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey he doesn't drink and a laptop he can't close. He opens his mother's Facebook. The profile is still active. Still shows her last post from 3 months ago. A photo of her cat with the caption, "This is my life now." The comments on that post have changed. Hundreds of new ones. People he's never met leaving messages. Rest in peace. You deserved better. I hope you find justice. Empty words from strangers who didn't know her, didn't love her, didn't warn her before it was too late. Calvin scrolls through his mother's message history with Ahmed, reads the lies, the manipulation, the promises. I will love you forever, Habibti. You are the only woman I have ever truly wanted. Come to me, and I will show you what happiness feels like. Every word was a trap. His phone buzzes. Another message from the Egyptian number. Ahmed's number. Your mother died believing someone loved her. Isn't that better than dying alone? Calvin's hands curl into fists. He types back. I'm going to find you. The response comes fast. No, you won't. Would you hunt the man who killed your mother, even if everyone said it was impossible? Calvin starts the foundation 6 months after his mother's funeral. He names it Nora's Promise. The website goes live on what would have been her 52nd birthday. The mission statement is simple: helping people recognize and report international romance scams before it's too late. He funds it with money from his mother's life insurance. The policy pays out $50,000. Blood money, he thinks. But he uses it anyway. Shauna helps him build the website. They work on it every night for 3 months. Create resource pages, warning signs, victim testimonials, a hotline staffed by volunteers. The first week, they get 12 calls. The second week, 43. By month 3, they're getting 200 calls a week. Most are from women, ages 40 to 70. All of them in online relationships with men they've never met. All of them being asked for money. All of them believing this time is different. Calvin talks to every single one. A woman in Ohio sending $500 a month to a doctor in Nigeria. A widow in Florida wiring money to a soldier stationed in Afghanistan. A retired teacher in Arizona planning to fly to Turkey to marry a man 30 years younger. He listens, doesn't judge, tells them his mother's story. Some hang up angry, some cry, some thank him. A few change their minds. That's enough to keep him going. The foundation gets media attention. Good Morning America does a segment. NPR runs an interview. The Chicago Tribune writes a feature. Calvin becomes the face of romance scam awareness. the son who turned tragedy into purpose. But at night, when the interviews are over and the emails are answered, he's still just a man whose mother died believing a lie. He keeps Ahmed's number saved in his phone, checks it every day. The messages stopped months ago, but the number is still active. Sometimes he types messages he never sends. Where are you? Did you ever feel guilty? Did my mother beg? He deletes them before hitting send. Shauna tells him he needs to let it go. You can't bring her back. You can't change what happened. I can stop it from happening to someone else. You're already doing that, but it doesn't feel like enough. The foundation grows. Chapters open in 6 states. Volunteers multiply. Calvin speaks at conferences, trains law enforcement, testifies before Congress about the need for stronger international fraud laws. He meets other victims' families, other sons and daughters whose parents lost everything to strangers on the internet. One woman in particular sticks with him. Her name is Monica. Her father sent $300,000 to a woman in the Philippines before realizing it was a scam. Died of a heart attack 2 weeks later. Shame and stress, the doctors said. Monica hugs Calvin after his speech at a Chicago community center. Thank you, she whispers. Thank you for making people understand this isn't about stupidity. It's about loneliness. That becomes his message, the thing he repeats in every interview. My mother wasn't stupid. She was lonely. And loneliness makes people vulnerable in ways we don't talk about. He says it on CNN, on Fox, on local news stations across the country. Some people listen, some don't. The comments sections are still cruel. If you're dumb enough to send money to a stranger, you deserve what happens. Natural selection at work. Why should we feel sorry for idiots? Calvin stops reading comments. 1 year after his mother's death, Detective Youssef calls from Egypt. We found something. Calvin sits up straight. What? A witness. Woman in Alexandria who dated Ahmed Darwish 5 years ago. She recognized his photo from the news. Says he used the same tactics on her, but she got suspicious and broke it off before he could take her money. Does she know where he is? No, but she gave us names. Other women he targeted. We're building a pattern. If we can connect enough victims, we might be able to predict where he'll surface next. It's not justice, but it's something. Thank you, Calvin says. Your mother's case changed how we investigate these crimes, Detective Youssef says. We take them seriously now. We don't dismiss them as just financial fraud. We understand the human cost. After they hang up, Calvin opens his laptop, updates the Foundation website with new resources, new warning signs, new statistics. He adds a page dedicated to his mother, includes her photo. Not the passport picture the media used, a different one. Her at his college graduation, smiling real and wainmopur, proud whore. He writes, "This is Nora Bellamont, not a victim, not a statistic, a woman who deserved better than what she got." His phone buzzes. Message from an unknown number. Not Egyptian this time. American area code. I lost my mom to a romance scam last year. Your foundation saved my sister from making the same mistake. Thank you. Calvin reads it 3 times. Then he types back. I'm sorry about your mom. Keep talking to your sister. Don't let her face this alone. The response comes fast. I won't. That night, Calvin sleeps better than he has in months. How many people would still be alive if someone had just listened to the warnings? The message arrives on a Saturday. Calvin is at his desk answering Foundation emails when the notification pops up. Facebook Messenger. Request from someone not on his friends list. He almost ignores it. Gets dozens of these a week. Usually spam or people trying to share their own scam stories. But something makes him click. The profile has no photo, just a grey silhouette. Name listed as A. Darwish. Calvin's breath catches. He opens the message. It's written in Arabic. He copies it into Google Translate. I have thought about your mother every day since. I did not mean for her to die. She was kind. I am sorry. The last word is in English. Sorry. Calvin stares at the screen for a full minute. Then he types back. Where are you? The 3 dots appear. Someone's typing. They disappear, appear again. Then, it doesn't matter. It matters to me. I cannot undo what I did. No, but you can turn yourself in. Long pause. No typing indicator. Calvin keeps going. My mother trusted you. She believed you loved her. She died thinking someone cared. I know. Did you ever feel anything real for her? Another pause. Then, I felt guilty. Does that count? Calvin's hands are shaking. He wants to throw his laptop across the room, wants to scream, wants to reach through the screen and drag this man into daylight. Instead, he types, guilt isn't enough. I know that. Tutu. Then do something about it. Like what? Confess. Face what you did. Stop running. The dots appear and disappear 3 times. Then, I cannot go to prison. You do not understand what that means here. I don't care. I know you don't, but I am telling you anyway. I cannot turn myself in. I will die in prison. Not from sentence, from other inmates. They do not treat people like me well. Calvin doesn't feel sympathy, doesn't feel anything except rage. You killed my mother. Yes. You drugged her. You dumped her in the river. You watched her die. I did not watch. I left before. Before what? Before she stopped breathing, before her heart stopped, before she realized no one was coming to save her. No response. Calvin keeps typing. She waited her whole life to feel loved, and you took that from her. You took everything. Still no response. Why did you message me? Finally. Because you are right. Guilt is not enough. But it is all I have. Then live with it. Every single day. Know that you killed someone who just wanted to be loved. I will. The profile goes offline. Calvin tries to message again, but it says the account has been deactivated. He sits back, closes his eyes, feels something crack open in his chest. Not closure, that's not the right word. Closure suggests an ending. This doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a wound that will never fully heal. Shauna comes into the room. You okay? He messaged me. Who? Ahmed. The man who killed my mom. Shauna's eyes go wide. What did he say? That he's sorry. Do you believe him? Calvin thinks about it. Really thinks. I don't know. Maybe he feels something. Maybe he's just scared. It doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't. She sits next to him. They don't say anything for a long time. Later that night, Calvin records a video for the Foundation's YouTube channel. He talks about his mother, about loneliness, about the predators who exploit it. He talks about the message from Ahmed, about how apologies don't bring people back. Then he says something he's been thinking for months. My mom didn't die because she was foolish. She died because the world taught her to be quiet about her needs, to be ashamed of wanting love at 51, to believe that being alone meant failing. He pauses, looks directly at the camera. If you're in an online relationship and something feels wrong, tell someone. Anyone. Don't keep it secret. Don't protect the person who might be hurting you, because silence is what predators count on. Silence is what killed my mother. He ends the video with a request. If this story resonates with you, share it. Not for me. For the next person who might be where my mom was. For the next family that might lose someone they love. He uploads it. Within a week, it has 2 million views. Within a month, 5 million. The comments section fills up. But this time, it's different. My aunt almost fell for a scam like this. I showed her this video. She blocked the guy, thank you. I was sending money to someone overseas. Watching this made me realize I was being used. Your mother would be proud of what you're doing. Calvin reads every comment. 3 months later, Detective Youssef calls again. We found him. Calvin's heart stops. Ahmed? Yes, he turned himself in this morning, walked into a police station in Benghazi. Said he couldn't live with what he'd done anymore. Calvin can't speak. He's being extradited to Egypt. He'll face trial here. I thought you'd want to know. After they hang up, Calvin sits in silence. Justice won't bring his mother back. A prison sentence won't undo her death. But maybe it will stop the next one. Maybe that's enough. He opens his laptop, starts writing a new post for the Foundation website. Today, Ahmed Darwish turned himself in. Today, my mother's killer will face consequences. Today, we take one small step toward making the world safer for people who just want to be loved. He adds a final line. Don't let fear stop you from connecting with people. But don't let loneliness silence your instincts either. Love should never require secrecy. Trust should never demand isolation. And if someone truly cares about you, they'll understand why you need to tell the people who love you before you risk everything. He hits publish. Somewhere across the ocean, a woman scrolling through Facebook sees the post. She's been messaging a man in Turkey for 6 months. He's asked her to visit, asked her to bring cash, asked her to keep it secret from her family. She reads Calvin's words. Then she blocks the man's profile. Then she calls her daughter. I need to talk to you about something, she says. I think I almost made a terrible mistake. Her daughter listens, and because she listens, her mother doesn't become the next story. That's how it happens. One conversation at a time, one shared warning, one person choosing to speak instead of staying silent. Nora Bellamont is gone. But her story isn't. And maybe that's the only kind of justice that matters. If you or someone you love is in an online relationship that feels wrong, will you speak up before it's too late? Share this story. Subscribe to stay informed. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could save a life. Drop a comment about how you protect the people you love. Your words might inspire someone else to do the same. Because the only thing more powerful than a predator's lies is the truth we share with each other.